"Hey, what do you guys think about this? I've gone through this system. Here's the 12 benefits. Here's three ways that I think might be downfalls. What's your guys' thoughts?" So we do it between the three of us, and then we're like, "Hey, let's have the service managers look at this. Let's have the office look at this." And like, I kind of like that. I kind of like that. And maybe you get a subpar company to help bring some advice as well.
Mhm.
And they're like, "All right, let's go." Then that helps that idea really grow legs.
Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroads Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business, working through adversity, and pouring back into the community that keeps our doors open. We're your hosts, Taylor, Matt, and Shelby, and we'll bring you relevant local business advice and automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business, and may even throw in a plug for you to do business with us. Welcome to the Lewis Brothers Podcast, episode number 60.
Woo!
Getting into a fun one today. I love this because of the relevance of what is happening, obviously, during technology and everything else. But noise starts to signal how to tune out the leadership advice that doesn't apply to you.
So good.
There's no shortage of leadership advice out there. Books, podcasts, TikToks, quotes on LinkedIn. Everyone's an expert.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you know who to really listen to and what's relevant to your business? All that and more that we're going to dive into on today's topic of the podcast. But Shelby, what happened last week?
Recap from last week: the silent killer of business assumptions.
Okay.
We talked about it and all that we know and all that we've learned, assuming when to, when not to, really to fact check, get the details. That was episode 59. You can find crossroadconversationspodcast.com or any of our socials. Make sure that you like and subscribe to pick up on that.
Now, that's good stuff. Hey, we got to talk about what's in the garage before we get into all the details today. It's going to be a good one. I like that subject you picked, Taylor. But let's talk about the garage. What I'm bringing to you today is we're getting ready for winter. We're getting ready to be easier on your wallet.
Yep.
Okay, both on your monthly payment and on fuel savings. Today is the Jeep Compass.
Okay.
And the Jeep Compass has deep Jeep roots on all of its off-road capability,
Mhm.
but has brought in luxury style from the Grand Cherokee.
Okay.
And a lot of these you'll find have that top hat. Remember how you were talking about with the Expedition last week? Also from the Wagoneer and the Grand Wagoneer, where the top part's black and the white or the silver. It's got the great over 10-inch screen on the inside. All Jeep Compasses come four-wheel drive, by the way, too.
Love that.
So you don't have to come in asking. If you're looking for a
Throw right in.
highly capable vehicle, it's the Jeep Compass.
Mhm.
Not only that, the four-wheel drive Jeep Compasses start at under $30,000 and get over 30 miles per gallon.
Yes.
So when you start taking all that together, it's a great vehicle. We sell these things in masses. They're very reliable, great engines, great powertrain, and of course, it's got the Jeep name behind it.
You know, I love about the Ram, Jeep side, everything else in there. They just realize that they need to include the frills. They need to include the looks, and it has it all. It's not like you've got to a la carte this to get it. It's got the two-tone top. It's got the big screen in it. It's got four-wheel drive standard, ready to go, under 30,000, over 30 miles to gallon,
That's right. That's so good.
which is huge going in there. Hey, diving in today, advice overload era. We talked about this. Everyone out there is an expert. Everybody's got their own talk. Everybody's got their own podcast. We're drowning in business content, books, reels, blogs, workshops, conferences. But how do we weed through that?
Man, that's such a good topic, and we're going to get into the details. But before we get into how to weed through it all, I just do want to say, though, is that there's a lot of noise out there, and there's a lot of good stuff, and then there's a lot of fake stuff, and there's people giving advice that have never even been in business before.
Yep.
But what I do like, let's go down memory lane just a little bit. I do like the access that people have to be able to learn from others. You know, growing up, we would go to a NADA convention or another convention, and I'd see Dad at one of the booths, whether it was sales training or service or marketing. And what he was really doing was trying to negotiate and work out a deal to buy the library of cassettes or CDs. All right. And at that point in time, there wasn't the internet. So if you wanted to listen to it, you had to put the cassette tape in or you had to put the CD in and you listened to the different word tracks. And I don't know if y'all remember this, but in his old office over there, he had a bookshelf full of all this how-to stuff and had his what he called his Big Chief tablet. His Big Chief tablet that you would check out. So, hey, I want to check out how to handle objections. I want to check out appointment setting. I
Yep.
want to check out how to write up the perfect repair order.
Mhm.
And people would check it out, they'd listen to it, and they'd bring it back. No different than going to the library,
Yeah.
you know? So you fast forward and you take that, and what we've learned from that is now that's exposed to everybody else.
Yep.
So there's a real positive about all the energy out there and all that information,
Mm.
but you got to be able to weed through it.
So I was looking for a stat. I saw it the other day, but I didn't save it, so I didn't. That means I won't remember it. But in today's world of social or podcast, it's kind of a, if you're in the game,
Mhm.
it's kind of a game of noise. And it's
Mhm.
about just getting it out there.
Yeah.
And so the stat was something like 65% of people that are giving business advice have never owned or operated a successful business.
Mm.
Right? So
Mhm.
first and foremost, you have to one of the check on parameters before you fully engulf yourself in this podcast, even our podcast or someone else's
Mhm.
podcast or anything else. Kind of do a fact check real quick and say, hey, what has this person done? And are they going or have they been where I want to be?
Yep.
Mhm.
Right? They say, how do you become a millionaire? Well, you probably should surround yourself with people who have become millionaires before,
Mhm.
right? How do I create a successful business from the ground up? You should probably surround or get your advice from people who have set up and operate successful
That's
businesses.
right.
And so before you just fully start following this social channel or that social channel or this one, you need to say, where is this coming from?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Are they actually walking the walk, or are they just creating content to get the views and we've talked about that many a times about an online website of these
Sure.
people look like a superstar and they have all this going on, and you're like, I want to go visit them, like, because
Uh-huh.
generally we're
Yeah.
in-person people. Let's go learn. Like, if the internet shows all this, that must mean there's so much more, right? And so we look it up and like, that's at somebody's house. And we're like, oh, something's got to be wrong. And so they're in their basement in their underwear, just,
Yeah, they've got the suit on from the belt up because that's all
yeah,
the
from the
camera
Zoom
can see.
call with an AI background. So that would be my first thing is before you fully engulf yourself, because
Mhm.
there's a lot.
There is. So here's a simple term for you, and this is an old quote or saying. Let's say it's a saying. I don't know if it's a quote. Trust but verify.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
know what I mean? So when you see something online or even in person, somebody ever told you something, and you're like, that sounds really cool, but did they really do that? Verify it before you put it in place.
Mhm.
All right. Give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And I like to do that. And y'all have heard me talk about it before is when I'm listening to a speaker or I'm in a class or webinar, even if they say something I don't agree with,
Yep.
I don't allow that to cloud my mind for something that maybe I will agree with that I could put in my toolbox.
And it might just be a thought starter in your brain. They might not be delivering the correct message, but they created the idea in your
Yes,
brain, right?
that's it.
So they said, hey, you should think of this. And they might not
Mm,
be verifiable, but it spiked that idea, and you can find somebody that's verifiable that has done it
mhm.
and will do good with it.
I will say this too, because there's so many stages of this. And one, I'm going to tell you what I do here in a second. But before that, is nobody's going to have the perfect game plan laid out from A to Z
Mm.
for your business or for your situation. It just doesn't exist. Everybody has different scenarios. They're in different regions. They got different customers. They've got different restrictions, strengths, weaknesses, so on and so forth. So just know that there should be nobody online that you can go buy their business plan or listen to their TED talk for 3 hours, and that's going to be perfect for your business situation. That's just not true. It's not true. And one of the things that we do a really good job of is we'll listen and we'll hear a podcast, we'll hear a book, and we'll share it amongst each other. And what we're looking to do is just to take one or two things from that and then integrate it into what we're already doing. Just to help what we're doing is not broke, but how can we elevate it? We're not looking to scrap it and start all over.
It's funny because I got a text yesterday from one of the guys from the 20 group and said, hey, just hired some new sales people. Who is mainly doing your sales training and where is that coming from? And I said, well, we do,
Uh-huh.
right?
We do.
We do our training because we inspect what we expect, but we have online modules,
Mhm.
and I have phone training specifically from this person.
Mhm.
I'll send you the link. It's free. Here's how you do it. I have objection handling from this person. And here's the link to this. And then I have how to handle the internet customer from this. And then I have classic old school of this, this, and this. So our training manual is at least 6, maybe 7 or 8
It
different
is.
individuals. And when we've sent managers to training before, it's like you do not have to go become a carbon copy of them or their process. And you pre-warn them that there's going to be something they say that triggers you that could completely ruin the entire training. It
Mhm.
might be what they say, it might be what they wear, it might be how they present themselves, but just know that you're going for a couple nuggets
Yes.
that you can integrate in your process.
Mhm.
Because more often than not, be like, hey, how'd that go? Like, man, that guy cussed a lot, or that guy, whatever it may be, like that guy hadn't got a clue. He ain't never sold a car or whatever. It's like, okay, no, but what was something good you took from that?
I think that's important because if we really all pull back the layers of every human out there, none of us are perfect. None of us are. And I've even heard people talk about in church or in business or this or that, they'll start picking on one thing somebody said, and it clouds their mind for all the goodness out
Right?
there, that's there. In fact, let's talk about this for a second. So, depending upon where you get your research from, okay, which is exactly what we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
it says anywhere from 73 to 85% of facts or stats that are thrown out there are not true. Okay? 73 to 85. Now, most people would say, well, why do I pay attention to any of it if 70+% is not true? Well, I'm looking for the 30% that is, and I can weave through, okay, and have my radar on to figure out what can help me and what's just total BS. And if anybody gets on there and whatever they want to do, but on social, I can tell when they've rented the plane out and it never took off from the runway and they pull up on the Rolls Royce or whatever else just to try to get me. I Now, I'm not impressed with that at all. I want to see what they said, what they do, and then I'm going to go verify it with some other research,
There's
like
a
you
lot
said.
of people that want that are going to get super jacked up, like, oh, baby, like somebody selling a sales course or
Yeah.
online training. Like, look what it did for me. Look what I can do. Right. And so, um,
I think there's that. And I think you got to remember this too. Is there is no such thing as instant success and a light switch. And if you'll remember that, and we're all salespeople in here. Remember that everybody's out there selling, so they're going to talk about their best, their most successful sales story, their most successful business plan, so on and so forth. And that's okay. That's okay. They did that. But you got to take it with a grain of salt and then figure out how does it incorporate in. The reason I say all that is I don't want you to get out of this podcast of I shouldn't read any more books. I shouldn't watch any more reels. I shouldn't watch any more YouTube videos. No, 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 no. That's not true. There is great benefits to that. You just have to have your filters, like we've talked about,
yep.
out to verify that it's correct.
Well, and in fact, it might be the opposite. If it's 70 to 83% is not true,
Mm-hmm.
one, you need to verify, but two, you need to consume more.
Yeah.
But because you're gonna have to consume more to get actual factual what works, what's good, and what has some proof to it, right? So don't just say, because yesterday in a sales meeting, I had to stop and point out to a guy again of like, stop talking. You didn't even let me finish the question. When you come in here, you only know what you know. Like we were born with it and you've experienced how many ever years of life and you've been around so many people. You only know what you know. But if you'll be quiet and listen to a podcast or read a book or surround yourself with people, it could be an opportunity, even if it's 80% BS.
Mm-hmm.
There's 20% that could catapult you to a crazy new level.
And I will say this. Now, I like watching whether it's TikTok or YouTube or Reel or this or that. I like the shortened version in the video. Okay, we all have fast food mentality.
Mm-hmm.
We want it fast, and,
Oh, yeah.
and then we move off. But I will say, if somebody recommends a book to you, there's a whole lot more work that goes into a book. And it's not just blatantly making stuff up. So I would say, there's somebody recommends that. I would dive in there. Now, on the social side, because now, and you're going to know the number better than I am, but now it's how much content can you put out per day? And some people are putting out 6, 8, 10, 12 pieces of content per day. per day. And if you take somebody that's trying to be a sales trainer or an entrepreneur coach or a C-suite executive or this or that, at some point in time, they're going to run out of content.
Yeah, no, it's all
And then they
like,
start reaching.
yeah, they start real and they start with the stories, and then they get the algorithm boosting, and they're like, "This is good. Keep feeding the machine. Keep," and
Yeah,
they're like, what am I talking about?" And they're like, "Hey, let's start back at ground zero. Let's tell it again, but a
sure.
different framework. Let's include someone else in it, and let's tell the story." And then they're like, "Okay, we're done again." And so then they do start reaching, and people are consuming it, and so they just keep doing it and keep doing it, and it's like we kind of got away from what actually we do.
So, just before you hit your foot on the gas pedal, listen to it, verify it, and make sure it's good before you put it in place. And, the fitness industry is full of that too, of all the people, so you talk about entrepreneurs, you
That's
talk about fitness.
that's so funny
It's
because
like,
in my feed the other day, I saw a video and I just died laughing about it. It was like, "Are you looking for your next," like this guy was not
like
an
what everybody's,
infomercial.
yeah, I
He was
am.
just totally hating on it, but right, that's what they do. They say, "Hey, if you want to be an FBO, like Amazon FBO, you need to go to trending things.
Hmm.
Hey, I want to lose some weight, fitness, pretty popular thing, right? You want to be in better shape." So this guy said, "Dude, if you want to be successful in the fitness influencer industry, you need to pump yourself full of steroids and testosterone and line up with somebody who's selling products, and now you're selling the products. Who cares that you're just juiced so heavy because you're going to look the part and everyone's going to be buying it because you look good and that's what they want to look like." I'm like, that's pretty much what it is,
It's
right? The
pretty much
poor
what it
guy
is.
that's just, eating his Wheaties
Yep.
and just grinding. He will not get results as fast as that. So they're thinking fast food mentality. So you got to be careful there of like, okay, let's check the pedigree of this person. Cause he was like, no joke. And this is a funny, but it's serious. Just jack yourself full of all the stuff and you're going to
Hmm.
look jacked up and start selling supplements and having influencers and pyramid scheming, and off to the races you go.
And then that's part of a short-term business. They'll have short-term
Yeah.
success, and we've talked about that in business as well. But I was listening to a guy the other day, and this guy had followed for a while, and he'd had some really good. He's a smart guy, so I'd done my research, and he had done some good out there. But then he starts reaching. He starts reaching, and multiple things he had said. This is the best thing you could do for recovery. All right. So started in cold plunge.
Yeah.
I don't disagree there.
Yeah.
Whether it is or it isn't, feels like it is. Okay. So and it might just be a placebo effect. Whatever. I'm taking it on. So then he goes to something else, then he goes to something else. And then the other day, it was like red light therapy is the best for this. I'm not saying red light therapy is not good. But I'm just saying you can't just keep saying something else, something else, something else is the best because you lose. Now his viewership's going down because at some point in time it gets watered down and you're reaching
Yeah.
for that content.
Yeah, I love of listening to that and going through. We got deep into it there of going through. But what I love is it always goes back to surround yourself
Yeah.
around with filters that you listen to. Because we three can listen to the same, and because of our age difference or anything else, and we have a lot of the similarities of how we do business and everything. But if we sit down in a room and like, hey, what'd you think of this?
Mm-hmm.
We'll have some of the same
Different.
things, but we each have different parts and pieces that one triggered our mind of our nugget we were looking for, and two, hey, this is relevant. I think it would be good in our business. So never forget that filter.
Mm-hmm.
Always have that people surrounding you. So then that's able to help make it relevant for your business.
Yeah, that's
Help
good.
make it relevant for your business. So that was really good topic there of going over.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk fun fact quiz. This week's fun fact quiz is brought to you by us.
Okay.
Uh, roughly, how many business related books are published every year?
Mm.
Every single year, how many business related books are published every single year? Now, you said books take more effort. If you
Mm-hmm.
compared this to social media, yes, you would know that.
Mm-hmm.
So A, 10,000 new books a year. B, 25,000 new books a year. C, 50,000 books a year. Or D, 100,000 books per year.
Wow.
Right?
That's quite a bit. I mean, I guess there's a lot of people out there that write that stuff, but
Well, it's funny, no matter what it is, from 10,000 to 10,000, I feel like every book you look at, it's like, this is a New York Times bestseller.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
But looking at any of those numbers, even if it's 10,000, like, what's the chance that you are the New York Times bestseller?
Wow.
I don't know how often if that's the weekly bestseller, the monthly, or the year. I don't know. The
But
answer is not 10,000.
okay.
It's not 100,000. It's not 25,000. 50,000 new. Now, this is not just books, it's business related books are
Okay.
published every single year. Fun fact quiz of the week.
Just to put that in perspective, and they don't have the breakdown, but every single day, this is crazy. Every single day, 2.6 million videos are uploaded to YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah,
And they're not all business. I
no,
gotta
no,
get
no,
that.
no. But
But
people like that's where people are at, right?
so you talk about the noise, 2.6 per day.
Craig, we got to get our videos up.
2.6
Whoa.
per
Yeah, it's the same
day.
thing we tell our salespeople. Hey, did you post something today? It
Yeah.
should be, hey, did you post something in the last hour?
Because
Yeah,
it's
They're
going to
like,
get drowned.
It'll go to the bottom faster than a 20-pound weight in the bottom of the lake.
Yeah.
yes.
All right. So, no, we've talked about that. Now we got to help the audience out there is what do we put in place without squashing people's creativity and excited that our employees bring ideas to us that they saw, you know, whether they went to a seminar or they read a book or they watched a video online. But how do we make sure that bad advice doesn't invade our business? You know what I mean? And that really comes from trending ideas can sneak into a team's culture. And not all modern leadership advice fits every business.
Well, that statement kind of alludes to what I would say is what fits in.
Mhm.
Well, does it fit your culture? Before you go any further,
Yep.
the way that that person is delivering, no matter what they're delivering, is that your culture of delivery.
Mhm.
And you could take the idea and make it your culture of delivery.
Sure.
But if you're like going to sign somebody up for a training and it's not your culture, uh, then and I'll tell you, like, story time, I guess I'll just give you a real deal. So we signed up for sales training with this company, and I loved how he was able, like, super enthusiastic, right? Most of the training's pretty dry,
Sure.
right? Guy's got a suit from 1974,
Yeah.
and you're like, no, I need some new age energy,
Sure.
right? To
Yeah.
keep people watch them, to keep them
Keep
engaged.
engaged.
And so I love this. But every time I looked up, this guy was MFing or cussing this, that, and the other. I was like, that is not our culture.
No.
And so, but here's the thing. So that was his social.
Mhm.
But then I said, give me a trial.
Yeah.
Let me myself log in and watch your videos. Let me see if you're still that wild.
Sure.
And what I found is he was not.
Mm.
He still was high energy and
Yeah.
had the good words, but was not flying off the handle. Said, okay, this could be good for our team.
Sure.
So then when I signed up and I said, hey, I want you to do a sales rally with our sales team. It's going to be a Zoom call. You're going to have all my salespeople. I said, but look here. If you fly off the handle
Mhm.
in whatever shape, form,
Sure.
we're going to be done. Like, not done with the Zoom call, I'll cancel it.
Yeah.
I said, that's not our culture.
Mhm.
I said, if you can't get down with that, if that doesn't make sense, I totally
No
get it.
big
We
deal.
might not be a right fit. I like your program, I like your process, but sometimes you get jacked up on the internet.
Mhm.
Um, and he's like, man. And so then we started texting back and forth, and he's like, dude, that's total heavily on my heart. Like, people have told me that before, and I've never slowed down to think about it. I was like, totally get it. Like, if that, if that hits you hard, then you should change yourself. But I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
So then on that Zoom call, there was a point where he started going, and I was standing in front of the class just looking at him, and he's like, all right, let me reset myself because I realize I'm getting out of bounds here. Shelby told me where we needed to be, right? So
Mm.
first and foremost, do they line up with your culture?
That's so
That's
important.
the biggest deal.
That's really good. I also like when I'm listening to people that are self-improvement or self-help, I also like to see somebody that's maybe been through a decade or so or a downturn in business. And we really saw this during COVID. And I'm going to bring this up, and I like these guys, but Maxwell. So if you look at like a John
Yep.
Maxwell, he's in his late 70s, early 70s now. Like he's been doing it since his 20s. So you can count the decades there. And what he taught in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s and 2020, like the principles are still the same. How people receive their information is different, but how you treat people and how you run business and how you manage cash flow and how you get in front of people and inventory turn, all that's the same.
Yeah.
It really is. So you take somebody like that, and if they've shown you and that's verified, you can take something that then he has said with full confidence and incorporate it into your team.
Yeah.
So I think that, that kind of gets into the line what we're talking about here is, not necessarily modern leadership fits every business. I think business practices and the basics, those haven't changed.
No.
I think how we connect with people, how we evolve with technology, that stuff has changed. But the actual core of the business is people and products and how do you handle yourself and your reputation and your word of mouth is still bigger than any social platform out there. That hasn't changed.
Yeah, I think you just evolve in that delivery, right?
Mhm.
But you don't change how and where. Yeah, and there's something and I just like stories because they relate. So there was a guy that was in the fitness industry. We'll speak to that because people talk about that. That he said, "Hey, okay, the theory of jacked up, juiced up
Yeah,
is one thing, but they didn't always associate with because that was not them,
sure.
right? And they were like, "That's where I want to be," but they don't get me, right?
Yeah.
They don't get that I have trouble with going through fast food and
Mhm.
not having portion control. So this guy, he actually made a TV show about it, but he went fit to fat to fit.
Mhm.
And so he was very fit,
Mhm.
and then he went for like 180 days and ate all the stuff. And it was so hard for him. And he gained like 90 pounds. Because then he wanted to be able to show, hey, I am average or
Yeah.
below average. Uh, so now I want to walk you through my journey. And I'm not going to say that he was reaching because he was actually doing it.
Mhm.
And he related. And so then he was breaking down not actually like, "Hey, Imma break this down." He was having mental issues
Mm.
because he was like, "I never realized now how dependent I am on food." Because then we went to now a calorie deficit to lose the weight.
Sure.
He's like, "I'm having withdrawals." Initially, it was hard for him, and then it was so hard to go back off of it. And so then people ragingly related to it. It was
It
like,
did.
okay, this guy fell off the wagon on
Mhm.
purpose, but
Yeah.
still fell off the wagon. Now he's trying to get back on. So then all the people come on in and help me
Yeah.
get back to this. And so it's the same thing of just like you said, somebody that has some
Mhm.
depth in their
That's right.
pedigree that it's actually real. It's not just a new account that got created today that added into the 2.6 million videos. And there was a story and you could relate and it
That's
made
right.
sense.
And it was real. So, like, they're not showing the man or the woman in success on what they claim their private jet that they just rented out for an hour that never took off. They're actually showing them, hey, in the trenches, here's
Yeah.
what we do, and
They're like,
here's how we've got
hey,
through
this
there.
isn't working today. I want to let you know we showed up with this idea
Mhm.
and my parts delivery truck didn't show up today."
All right, so let's take that and let's convert it. So now, as a leader, how do you put the right checks and balances, filters, we like to use that word too,
Yep.
in place to make sure that's not creeping in your business? I'll say number one, and this isn't always applicable, but when it is, just get references.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you're signing up now, if you're watching a TikTok video and you can't connect with them, it's really hard to get references. But if you're signing up for something or you're paying somebody money,
Mm.
get references. And I know it sounds like an old thing, but it's so true. If you're hiring, especially a higher up person, get references.
Yep.
If it's a business system, a payroll company, or this or that, get references.
Mhm.
And if you can't get references, then let's talk about what some of the other good things are to do. When an employee brings it to you, you don't want to squash them. We've talked about that. But how do you ask the right questions as a leader to make sure, okay, is this relevant? Would this fit our culture? Would it help? Or do I need to help them see where they need to keep digging, but this is maybe not a fit?
I'll take this one and run it, and I love it because you've helped us grow and adapt in this. But on our side, well, I'll go back to the employee because I don't want to overshadow that question you're talking about there. But if they bring it to you,
Mm-hmm.
you need to put the ball back in their court and say, "Hey, I need you to give me references. I need you to figure X and Y out to make sure it
Mm-hmm.
aligns with this." And guess what? If they don't bring it back, it's not that important.
Hmm.
It's not that important. It's no different than you've taught us whenever we get jacked up or excited about something. Hey, have this lined up for me. So whenever we talk to them,
Sure.
we can go through this. And if we don't take the time or the person doesn't provide that to you,
Hmm.
it's not worth having. It's not worth having. Now, some you can weed through and it's a new startup company and they don't have all the references and backing. Okay, that's a one-off scenario. But majority of the time, they're going to have all of the references and they need to bring them to you if it's going to be something relevant that is worth you pursuing.
I think so. Yeah, that's good. It's good. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, very much so. Of just like you got to be careful, like because if it's always the latest and greatest, the latest and greatest, the latest and greatest, you kind of forget
Hmm.
what it's all about,
You
right?
bet.
You're always chasing the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. So you got to vet that a little bit. And like Taylor talked about, it's generally how we handle every single idea. But
Hmm.
then you're going to ask them the next level questions they hadn't thought about it because they were just on a sales pitch,
Sure.
right? They were getting pitched, they were getting sold, and they didn't have time to come up with all the what ifs or the objections. So you get to help them, like, hey, here's what you need to go back and ask that company or that person. How did they handle this situation? What do you do when your inventory feed goes back to them, also comes back to CDK.
Sure.
CDK rewrites and it goes back to Viato and then it goes over to HomeNet, then it goes to Auto Trader. How do they have a protection filter that it doesn't just keep round robin and back and around? And they're like, didn't think about that. It's like, okay, well, let's verify that.
Yeah.
And what do we do if it's under 5 photos? And what do we do if it's over 40 photos? But Auto Trader will only take 26 photos,
Sure.
but you need 9 photos for it to auto populate over here. Like, didn't think about that. So you can help them a little bit without belittling or
Sure.
saying, why didn't you think about that, you fool?
Yeah.
Like, why'd you bring me this? It's like, oh no, there's some questions that I thought about while you were talking. Let's get back with them and ask them these.
And I think both of those pieces are great advice, and it's easier done when you're paying for a service. So now I'm going to flip it on when somebody heard a marketing idea or a sales script or this or that, and they can't get in contact with the person.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'll do when I'm sitting down having a conversation with an employee is I'll let them go through that, and tell them, hey, that sounds great. I'm excited to hear about that. Let's unpack that. One, I want to thank them for taking their time
Hmm.
and really their courage to come into my office and say
Yeah.
that. We cannot forget that. We think it's easy. It's easy for us to walk in each other's office, but that employee, it's not easy
No.
for them. Okay. And it might not be this idea that's a game changer. It could be five down the road. So you don't want to squash that. And then we'll unpack it. And I'll say, okay, how do you see if you put this idea in place? What are you looking for it to accomplish? Like, what's the end goal? Like, what's the end goal?
Yep.
And they're like, I don't know. So, like, you help them unpack it. Okay, what do you think if we put this in place? What would it do? What would it improve? How would it enhance? What are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
And is there something we would remove to put this in place?
Hmm.
And I really like talking about this on word tracks, on sales word tracks out there, because there's people, you got to have energy and you got to have hype for people to be engaged online. Like
Yeah.
you just do. You
Yep.
just do. There's so much competition. But then I'll ask them, I was like, okay, let's unpack that. Because let's be honest, regional wise in the US, people talk to people differently. And I don't know about you guys, but when you're around somebody that's from like the Northeast, like New York, Boston, the Bronx, or whatever that is, they're rough.
They come off.
I mean, and like they'll start MFing you and this and that. And it's just a normal
Yeah,
conversation.
it doesn't mean what you think it means.
Yeah, if you're in the South, like you start taking offense to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then I'll ask somebody, I'm like, okay, what you heard from that guy in California talking about,
Yeah.
would you say that to your mom if you're selling her a car? Would you say that to your best customer?
Yeah.
And they're like, no. Well, okay, but there might still be good content in there. Let's rewrite it.
Yeah.
Let's just change a couple of those
Yep.
words and let's rewrite it. So you try to figure out the end goal of like, hey, this is helping to overcome an objection, or this is helping to get our social platforms out there better, or whatever else it may be.
Mhm.
And then you unpack it and adapt it and maybe change it to fit your culture,
Yeah.
for your success.
Yeah.
So I guess the point there too, and I think we all agree on this, is we never take anything without vetting it and just say, put it in place, let's go.
But I need to park there and say that you're kind of on your own with that
Mm,
because Majority of people out there do that.
They
It's funny, we have some people in our 20 group that they'll come and be like, "Hey, do you guys know this process?" I was like, "Mm." It's like, "Well, there's a new one that came out and we signed up for it." We saw another one at the same dealer and
just a couple weeks ago.
they were like, "Hey, have you guys signed up with so and so?" I was like, "Mm-mm." I was like, "What do they do?" It's like, "I don't really know, but they said they'd get us more leads and help us buy more cars." Like, "Did you verify them?" And they're like, "Mm." It's like, "Okay, well, let me know how it works out." There's a lot of people, we say that and it sounds easy, like, don't just sign up for everything because then the main thing's not the main thing, but there's a lot of people that do, that feel like it's gonna fix their issue.
And if you'll remember that nothing's free,
Yeah.
just like nothing's free,
Mhm.
okay? And you just run it through that filter.
Yep.
You go, hey, let me pause. Let me play the other side of it. Let me not shut it out because it could be something good.
Right?
So it's easy to go to the other side though,
Very
and
much
then you
so.
become the grumpy old man
Yep.
that doesn't listen to anybody, and nobody will ever come into your office anymore.
And that's funny because we constantly call each other out at different stages
Hmm.
of that. It's like, "Hey, listen, Frumpy, like, pull it together, son." It's like, "You sound grumpy." We point out, "Hey, you sound like this uncle, or you sound like this grandpa." I was like, "Whoopsie."
Yep,
It's like, "Thank you for checking me.
sure.
Like, give me a second. I'm gonna reset." It's like, "Okay, let's take a look at it. Like, I
Hmm.
think that's stupid, but let's look at it.
Hmm.
Maybe there's something good
Maybe
there."
there's a piece of it.
Right?
Maybe the whole thing's not a fit, but what if we took a piece of it?
Yep.
So I just, and this is kind of easy for us to talk about because we have developed, I'm not gonna say we naturally do it. We've developed the habits and the
Mhm.
filters and the processes that we do really good about it. Probably sometimes we don't act fast enough, but I'm just saying if you'll just pause, like, and don't just put everything in place and be like, "I'll just let them try it. If it blows up, it blows up."
That's what your employees are saying. You know what I mean? They're saying, "I just came back from this. I just signed up for that. Give it 30 days. He'll scrap it."
Yeah.
Like,
And I think that falls right into here, and I'm gonna let you take back over. Following too many best practices can turn into the worst practice of all, confusion, and I'm going to add to that. Employees not trusting what you said is actually going to be there long term.
yeah, like your word is your word. And so if you're constantly taking someone else's words and making them your own,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. Hey, we're going to try this. We're going to do that." Because they are your workers at whatever level, they're going to do it. Now, are they going to do it to their best ability? Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if this is the eighth time you've cried for wolf. Kid, I'm sorry. You're going to have to figure it out. I've come and checked on you 8 times now. Well,
Yep.
my leg's actually broken this time. Sorry. But, so then your team, like, it's no longer that big of a deal or that best of a practice because you shot all your bullets.
Sure.
And now they're just like, "Yeah,
You got no
whatever."
credibility.
Yeah.
Your credibility, your word has
Yep.
gone out the window.
Yep. So you got to be careful there that you find that happy medium. And then we've talked about it without fully breaking this down. Then you make your idea their idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it gets delivered a little differently. If I'm like, "Hey, what do you guys think about this? I've gone through this system. Here's the 12 benefits. Here's three ways that I think might be downfalls. What's your guys' thoughts?" So we do it between the three of us. And then we're like, "Hey, let's have the service managers look at this. Let's have the office look at this." And like, "I kind of like that. I kind of like that." And maybe you get a subpar company to help bring some advice as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "All right, let's go." Then that helps that idea really grow legs.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Mhm. Absolutely. Hey, diving into Mythbuster time. This is the more advice you take and the smarter you become. I laughed about it because it's like, oh, you have a lot of, we've been talking about this the whole time. It's busted. I'm not even going
You're
to,
not
I
even letting
mean,
me talk.
no, I'm not going
You're
to even
not even
let you
letting me
talk and
guess.
go
This is the
into
only
it.
game show I do good on.
It's a
So many people get hung in that of just like, and you will overload yourself.
It's like the multitasking. Like, hey, you good at multitasking? Like, you see a trucker's dashboard sometimes and they got like 14 monitors going. Like, yeah, you can see a lot, but you can't properly monitor that.
And I think we learned that with people. Where it felt good to say, well, I got 15 people under me, or I got 30 people I manage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're doing a poor job at it. you can only do 4 to 8 max.
Well, that in our manager meeting on Paces, it was like, hey, we have all of our KPIs. They go over every single day, and some of them kind of cross reference each other. And so it was like, hey, outbound activities yesterday was 289. Then we got over here, it was like, hey, how many one-on-ones did we do? And how many green light checkouts saying they performed their job to the best of the ability. And so it was 11 out of 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, real systems check. What says I'm a green light or good job of outbound activities? I said, well, it's 50. I said, okay. And you had how many salespeople yesterday? He said, 11. I said, okay. So how many activities would that equated to? And he said a random number. I said, no, it's 550.
Yeah.
And I said, so over here, is this number correct? The 289? He's like, yeah. I was like, so how did they get green light checkouts if they didn't do that? He's like, hmm. So it's not about the people that you have under you checking all the boxes, because then you'll just be checking the boxes and
With
you
no results.
really didn't accomplish jack squat.
That's right.
So
Yes, it's busted. So the more advice you take in, the harder it becomes to hear your own voice. Great leaders filter, they don't absorb.
That's the word filter. Huh.
Filter.
I didn't even type that in there.
No, a filter's good. Filter is good to have.
all right, how do you find your own signal? Your signal, where you're getting your information, what drumbeat you're going to beat to. You know what I mean? Like, so think about that. The best leaders develop an internal filter. We've
Mhm.
kind of broke that down, which aligns with their values, their people, and their goals.
The first thing I'm gonna say here where I get recommendations for a podcast, a book, a seminar to go to, any self-improvement stuff, is when somebody recommends it to me. So, you send me over a podcast to listen to, somebody our 20 group sends me, Taylor says, "You should look at this." Somebody else in my circle says, "Hey, you should read this book, you should do this or that." Those are credible points that then I take those. Like, I don't even have to research the podcast, I'm hitting play.
Yeah.
Because those are trusted sources that I value and I respect, that I know is not gonna recommend something to me that they haven't vetted and they don't think that would help improve my situation. So if you get a recommendation from somebody, run with it
Yeah.
and listen to it, because something in there is good. Now, on the other side, and we talk about this all the time, but we went through construction. Didn't really know that much about construction.
No.
I mean, we're pretty solid, like savvy, redneck, street smart people.
Mhm.
Okay. But I had to start researching top podcasts for commercial construction. And I had to go through multiples of those until I found one that related, one that I could understand.
Yes.
And then two had to do there. So, at a broad spectrum, if you can't get it from somebody locally or your circle of influence, you might have to sift through a bunch of them until you find something that relates that you can verify.
Yeah. And another thing that we learned just in adapting in your current situation, as we interviewed our general contractors
Mm-hmm.
and as we interviewed subs and as we started looking at places, we didn't never wasted an opportunity to learn something.
Something.
Like when we were hiring for sales managers,
Mm-hmm.
we thought that wasn't worthwhile. But before we wasted another not worthwhile, we said, what can be? And so we started extracting data, and then we used that as a question on the next person.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, what's your GCI, and how much is this operational cost, and what's your max over here, and what are you figuring over this, and what's your cap cost? And we started, and they were like, the first guy just got average Eddies, like some hillbillies about to just spend a lot of money. The second guy was like, oh, okay, we're gonna have to go a little bit deeper. By the time we got to the fourth or fifth or sixth, they were like, these people have their game put together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we did not waste any opportunity to learn and grow. It was never, stop raising your hand and saying, no one's training me. That is your own dang fault, you fool. There's so much information out there. If you have not stopped to say, what can I learn from this? And then really put it into your play, your game plan, how do you work with it still holding your vision?
Mm-hmm.
That's on you.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you bring up that point, and I'm going to unpack that rapidly, but just so everybody understands. Every single situation or conversation has some type of nugget in there where you can learn.
Yep.
Okay, in business, when you're highly successful, there is some key points in there that you need to pause and figure out what you could learn from that needs to be duplicated. When something goes wrong and it fails, there's something you can learn from to not allow it to fail again. When you're interviewing somebody, and this is a trade secret, but let's let them know. When you're interviewing somebody, even if you're not going to hire them, but guess what? They're probably working for your competitor.
Yeah.
It's a great time for you to ask questions to learn some of the inside information from your competitor down the road. Every single situation has the opportunity to learn something. And if you go in with that mindset, whew, you'll come away dangerous.
That's strong.
And it won't be by one event, it'll be by a correlation of 100
Yeah.
put together.
Yeah. Most certainly. So we talked about it, but advice is most useful when it reinforces your vision, not replaces it,
No.
right? It reinforces your vision, your goals, your North Star. Advice helps you tune up and move a little over here, a little over there, a little over here. Hey, someone else is doing it this way. This is more efficient. Hey, there's a system that does this. This helps you out. Hey, you need to hire this person to completely give you your time back, right? But you still have your vision and your goal, what you're trying to do.
Hey, on that, I got to give a piece of advice here, and we naturally do this, but this is so important. There are so many leaders out there that'll see a great video, they'll get a meeting together, and they'll hit play on the video, as this idea, and hoping that their team absorbs that and puts it in place. However, if you'll take what you just said about when it becomes your vision. So when I see something or you guys see something on a video, we'll go to a meeting and we'll talk about that and unpack it and then weave it into our culture and our process. Then maybe a week or two later, we may then play the video to reinforce what we introduced as our vision.
It's no different than I learned in college speech class, which I, for whatever reason, loved. Uh, but it was in a proper speech was you're gonna tell them what you're gonna tell them. All right, guys, I brought you here. Here's what we're gonna go over. Here's the game plan. Then you tell them, you show them the video, and then you're gonna recap the videos like, hey, so here's my 3 key takeaways. There's a sheet of paper and a pen in front of you. Write down these 3 key takeaways, and then there's 2 blank spots to write down your thoughts. And so then you help them really do something with it.
That's right.
Because if you simply emailed them the video and didn't say anything, or just brought them in a room and said this, then are you trying to change their North Star? Are you trying to make it successful? Do you follow up? Do you follow through with that? It's so easy, but so many people don't.
Oh, so many people
do
miss
not
it.
deliver that correctly.
You've talked about this so much of going through, which I love. People listen to this are like, I don't have the people around me. I can't do that. I don't have people that can pour into me or anything else. Will you reshare some of your top people that are influences to you you've never met in person?
No, and I think that changes throughout your life is, when I first got into business, the closest 5 people around me,
Yeah.
those were people I knew.
Yeah.
Those were people I interacted with. And then it goes on, and then a couple of the people were, and then now you look at, and the majority of the people that I learn from and I listen to and this and that, they don't have a clue who I am. They're not in my phone. If I send them a direct message, they probably are not going to answer. Maybe they'll have AI. I mean, I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, you don't have to know 'em, You just have to find the information and listen to it, run it through the correct filters, and then everybody has trusted sources within their organization. Then you bounce that idea off of them.
Yeah.
What's your take on
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
And then even it's the same thing. Now I'm laughing. It's the same thing. We'll talk about an idea in here. No different than before this. You were telling, Craig, our marketing director, some ideas. You were telling him about it first with the vision. Then you were going to send him the podcast.
Yes.
So it wasn't the podcast and the vision after.
Because they'll hear it differently.
They will.
Right? If you can give direction of, hey, here's what I got from this,
Yeah.
then they're going to start with their ears and their eyes like, okay, here's what I'm looking
Sure.
for. Right?
Well, we were in the sales manager meeting stuff, and we were talking about going over KPIs and how are we going to scale and how do we remove pain points on buying and this and that. So we talked about that. Then I told them the podcast was coming.
Yeah.
Then we listened to the podcast. Then we unpacked it again to drive it home.
Yeah. Very much so. All right, so think of this. It is always better to master a few proven principles than chase every single one. Like, think about that. It is better, it's the theory, it's better to be, instead of a jack of all trades,
Yeah.
better
So
master of
yeah,
none.
and that's how the quote goes.
Yeah,
You can be a doer of all and a master of none.
yeah.
And, that feels good. Like, hey, I know how to do plumbing. I know how to do electrical. I know how to do roofing and this and that, but you're really not a master of your craft of any of them.
Yeah.
So you're better off to hone in. And that's difficult for me to do too. You know what I mean? Is to hone in and say, hey, let me be a master of this. And I think we joke about this a little bit, but you really like take your energy and you put it in one segment. And ours is leading business, in our organization. So could I manage my investments in 401k? Yeah, I could. I could. Um, but I know I would have screens everywhere and I would be all in and I still wouldn't be a master of it. And not only am I not then a master of managing my investments, it actually took time away from what I am a master of. So not only did I not do it as good as somebody that's been in the industry of investing for 30 years and has the degree, I'm actually stealing time from what I'm the best at.
The oh.
You talk about that, I die laughing. You had said, Taylor, you're gonna set it up and do it here. I said, great, sounds good. Rev her up as hard as you can, just rev it farther. Well, we have a guy that is so analytical and he thinks he's gonna beat the system. He's got it the other day in investments we'd compared a 401k. Guess what? Mine was performing better and his was high.
Yeah,
And he thought he was like, walking by is good. He's like, it's 12% return. I said, mine's 18% return over. And he said, well, what do you manage? I said, I ain't managing anything. I put it to the masters, to the people that are in the craft that have the time to do it. Now, that doesn't mean you don't check on it or
sure.
anything else and make sure, hey, the door's open and nothing's working here. But more times than not.
Yeah.
That that's so good, like, cause people will be like, "Hey, tell me about your side gig. Tell me about your side business." And I'm like,
Oh my
my head is buried deep in my
God.
in the current business, which we have a decently high skill level being able to make it X factor hard.
Sure.
And so it's like, just like you said, you'd have all the screens like, why don't you open a t-shirt print business? Why don't you have a delivery service business? Why don't you have a install Christmas lights business or
Yeah.
this. Now our vision is, okay, let's just have our kids create that business, right? Why they're not having to do this
That's a whole nother
business,
podcast.
right? But anytime I now have that filter to set up to say, will that take away from my work time or my home time? And if the answer is, if it's not a set it and forget it, I can't devote that to it because the time that I would waste is no different than the other day. I had a whole business review that I generated via AI. I took an hour of my time to coach and talk through this thing, and it created a 22 page, like,
Mhm.
and I was showing it to the board, and they were like, this is solid. Where is this from? And I was just like, oh, I spent some time on the internet working on this and this. And they're like, that's really good. And I was like, look, my forte is not in spreadsheets, and I can do it with some of them, right?
Sure.
But it's like, this would take so much time, so much of
Days.
my brain power. I was like, my brain is much better spent. It's like somebody was talking about DoorDash the other day, and they're like, man, the fees are high. I was like, what's your time worth?
Yeah.
I'm not doing that every single day,
No.
but like if you're buried and you've got this many, this many, this many, this many, and you didn't bring your lunch, it's like, okay, well, what's your time bringing you right now
Mhm.
and value? And if you get out of that flow state of mind, you
Yes.
talked about how hard it is to get back into it, or you could just hit the button and have somebody deliver and it's a
Just
convenience
keep rocking.
and
Yeah.
you just keep rolling.
Yeah.
So
I think I gotta add one point to that because all that's so good. But for y'all out there that say and pay for the convenience of whether it's a delivery service or this or that, but then sit on your phone watching TikTok videos, not of business improvement. What are you doing?
It's not time.
Like you're trying to buy back your time so then you can invest your time what you're the best at,
but you didn't.
but you didn't.
Yes.
So then that's a double then you wasted your time and you spent more money.
Yep.
You got a negative return.
Yeah, not good.
I should throw that in
So
there.
just make sure you're handling that. So super solid there. Just understanding what's a piece of advice that's good that helps you lead. Something that
Sure.
you're always focusing on and making sure it's your own signal.
I had to look this up. This stat I saw this the other day, and it was so good. Somebody had put in, and the story of a lady, and this they're illustrating of putting it into there, but of how you use your minutes in a day. And a lady had went into a bank and deposited $1,440 in her account. Well, she went on throughout her day and worked, and then went to the store the next day to spend money. And she said their card got declined, and they said why? She said, "I just deposited money." When she went back to the bank, and the bank said, "Hey, I'm sorry, funds don't roll over. This isn't real, but it
Yeah.
Yeah.
will connect over."
Bunch of time.
Uh, says that whenever you don't use any of the money in the account, it expires at the end of the day. Well, it relates back to 1440. That's how many minutes are in the day,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're not using that, talking about your time,
Yeah.
it's gone. You can never get it back. So whenever you 10x, 1x, 2x, whatever it is, use that convenience
Mm-hmm.
and realize that 1,440 minutes a day, if you're not using it, it is gone and you can never get it back.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
good.
if you're constantly working on I can't, this isn't working, I can't figure it out, you're just blowing your time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It it blows my mind, and you don't want me to hold you accountable at that fashion. You don't want to sit down and tell me you
Sure.
don't have time, because I'm gonna show you how I've figured out how to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always. I've told you guys before,
Yeah.
I'm
Sure.
either an all in or I'm completely done,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I've had days where I'm completely done,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll have a day like Sunday where we played
Just dinged it.
84 different sports,
You were
went and
still
hunted and
uploading
did.
things at 8 o'clock at night. And I'm like,
uh,
are they starting another game
and I'm
here?
just like, oh my gosh. And so then I'm like, hey, missed you at the gym this morning. And they're like, yeah, I can't find the time. I'm like, what were you doing? Like, did you plant a garden? But
You got to tell your time what to do. That's the
most
deal.
important, man.
You got to tell what to do. Okay. All right. Let's wrap this up. So I
Yeah.
got a question for both of y'all.
Yeah.
Think about this. How do you personally decide when advice is worth listening to or when to tune it out?
Yeah. So I'll go first. The advice, is it getting me somewhere where I wanna go? Is it taking me somewhere I haven't been,
Mhm.
right? So if it's a podcast or something, I might do some quick research on it before because I'm like, "Hey, I only have X amount of time," and I'll quickly skip to another one of like,
Sure.
"Mm-mm, it's not the person speaking weird," or like, "I'm not connecting to this." So I'm quickly gonna say, is this something that I want to absorb, and is it taking me a direction that I want to go? Or is this trying to change my whole philosophy, and I'm not trying to hear all that right now
That's good.
because it's going to waste my time. And then how to tune it out? You just tune it out, turn it off, remove yourself. More often than not, I'm really good at just like, whoop, shape shifting over here, and
Yeah.
then whoop. I'm not gonna say, what's that? Irish,
Irish goodbye or
Irish
whatever. You just
goodbye.
leave.
You just leave. Like I
Yeah.
am not gonna say, hey, I'm leaving, because I
Nope.
know that's gonna take another 15 to 20 minutes.
And
Call
then
me
somebody's going to be like, why are you
Yeah, call me
leaving?
rude, call me weird, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm just going so I can quickly remove myself from that situation, and I can tune it out. So if change it, turn it off, whatever.
But there are situations where if you're in person,
Yeah.
okay, like this next week, we got an event coming up that will engage with some people enough where they know that we're engaged, but not too much where it takes up all the time.
It becomes an
So then you
elevate
move.
it becomes an elevator speech,
Mm-hmm.
and then you know your exit, right?
Yes.
And you know if, whoa, 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 I hooked up to something good. I need to spend some time here. I
Yeah.
need to get a connection with this person. It's something I align with or a good connection. Let's forget the elevator speech and let's go a little more in depth. Ask a question, listen and absorb. Ask another question, listen and absorb. And so they'd be like, man, that guy was really good at listening. That guy asked really good questions.
You know what's different there than most people is most people, and we've unpacked this before, most people listen to start speaking. You know, when we're listening, we're running it through the filters, figuring out, is this a conversation? Is this a person that I can extract more information from?
Yeah, it's how do you personally decide whether advice is worth listening to and when to tune it out? So I'm not gonna be like, "Hey, this is a waste of time. I'm gonna go to the bar, get something to drink." I know I don't drink, but this is an awful conversation.
Sure.
I'm like, "Oh, hey, that's Bob Smith
Oh,
over there.
hey,
It's
good to
such
see
a
you.
pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys around. Hey, come by for a tour and let me wash your car for free." Right?
Right.
I'm not gonna Irish exit that.
Yeah.
But if I realize, hey, we're really getting deep in this conversation, this person's gonna tell me about how they tried to buy a car in 1974 and it didn't go good.
Yeah.
I can't change that.
That's right.
Mhm.
Right?
What's your take on that?
I'll probably take it on the employee side whenever I get any ideas because I always love being in there. I have 2 quick, really good questions of going through this of why and what for. Like, so they'll come and be like, "Hey, Taylor, I think this is a great idea." I said, "Okay, great. What for?" And a lot of times I'll see that they move on or they'll be like, "Hey, Taylor, I think we need to do this." And I'll say, "Okay, why do you think that?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's instead of just me completely just tuning them out and not saying anything, I'm okay, what for?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, why do you think that? And I'm serious. I bet it's 9 times out of 10, they're like, I just think it'd be a good idea. And then they walk off. I'm like, okay, not
They're
credible,
they're
but
just
I
talking
acknowledged
to
it.
try to feel special,
Yes.
right? They're uploading stuff just to try to find
Yes.
value in that. It's
Yep.
like,
Mm-hmm.
I listened to you. I heard you didn't validate anything. Okay, let's
let's move
move on.
on. Let's move on.
Yes. So that's 2 things that I really go into of, hey, I'm still going to listen. Hey, I'm going to go through this, but
Yeah. Those are great tips right there. And what a great episode here about, just calming the noise down and all the information
yep.
that's out there. What I don't want you to do, listeners, is shut it all out
Mm,
because there's golden nuggets in everything. You just got to be able to have the filters in place, figure out how does it fit your culture, figure out how does it fit your processes to elevate it up to a new level. And if it doesn't align with that, then it's not for you.
mhm.
Move on. Don't even waste any time talking about how bad it was.
Mm-mm.
Move on looking for something that helps elevate you and helps elevate your business. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation on the Lewis Brothers Crossroads Conversations today. As always, go to lewissuperstore.com, check out over 1,000 vehicles in stock. And are they priced low? Absolutely. We volume price all of our vehicles for massive savings so you save as a customer. And go to Crossroad Conversations Podcast, check out all this episode. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. And as always, if you got a subject out there or something you're dealing with in business you need help with, shoot it our way and we'll cover it on the next episode. Hey, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to give it a like, share it with your friends and family, visit our website, and send us some questions. We want to know what you'd like to hear, who you'd like to hear from, and what you want to see, or maybe even some questions for us to answer about either the automotive industry or just business in general.